Well, we're getting there. You guys have some catching up to do. I've been hard at it. Like, this thing is giving me more problems than a math book. There's more to that, but I got a few more things here. You guys go back and catch up, and then I'll see you on the next one. It's kind of a daunting morning. We learned that the cantilever arms are not strong enough to support the weight of this due to basically the multiplication in load because of the arm. Kind of overloads the bags as well. The airbags are not going away. This was always kind of the contingency plan. However, we got to design these boxes so that they miss all this other stuff, catch the top of the shock. They're strong enough this way and this way to hold this big bertha up. I got my cardboard and all my things out designing that. I took the front fenders off and just so I could get to everything easier, which made me think being able to completely remove the hoop that I was going to weld into the rock slider and bring it up and do a one big hoop all in one piece and tie it all in. I think I might want to make that to where I can pull it off of there. And first piece designed and put up here. This hole, of course, is way too big. This is in line with where the bolt's going to be for the shock, and a socket will fit through there with ease. And I just thought that was, I don't know that you'll ever use a socket because you probably use a wrench, but this is going to have a piece that comes down on the outside here to box this in, and then there will be a piece across the top, so it might be easier just to run a socket through there. I have one little tack on this. I'm going to build one pretty much exactly like this, but it's going to go right in the middle of where the factory spring was at, and then it will encase the boot, and it'll come up look just like this. I had to add an ear back here because of the way that that frame is concaved. This is a lot different than my cantilever though, because with the shock hook to here and it's pushing straight up like that, basically all it's doing is trying to pull this weld off and everything's linear. I still have to design the front upright for the other side where that intercooler tube is going to be right inside of it. That front one's going to kind of come up right on the back side of this hole here, maybe even a little bit further forward, like right here, and that's going to come up, and then we'll have to come off of the frame up in here behind that tube and then angle over into this upright, and we'll just build it around that, get our strength back. Not a big deal, just a little bit of fab work there. And then I'm going to build a bracket out of 1/8 inch to where our fuse panel will fit off of the firewall like that. And then I'm going to stick a battery right there, at least for the test drive. Houston, we have a problem. Look at this. Look how nice that looks, right? Definitely going to have to do something with my bump stop. That's all kinds of in the way. I think if I just turn it, it'll be okay. But you can see how these stick out there. I knew better when I did it, but it didn't stop me from doing it. And you can see the mount up in here. And I got the mounts down on the bottom. This one just needs finish welded, and it's a-okay. Just needs a little bump stop work. This side, this one I just cut I went to the back of the frame rail and just cut it up. Got rid of the hole because it didn't need it. To run in the center of the old spring pocket, like on the other side, I can move all these lines and the brake lines and stuff. That's not a problem. The brake master cylinder makes contact up here with the line. totally destroying my cab tilt. Yep. But that being up here like it needs to be, master cylinder hits that. Not exactly sure how to salvage that. I'm gonna have to do some thinking on this one. I already lost my cantilever design going with the coilovers. I don't want to lose the cab tilt function going with the coilovers. I don't know. This is what I was talking about as far as custom stuff. I thought I was catching some pretty good headway today. This could cost me all of that headway real quick. Not a lot of fun when it goes like this, but part of the game. So, like Wile E. Coyote, back to the drawing board. I almost filled my brake reservoir today and bled my brakes. I'm glad I didn't. Thought about this for about 5 minutes. The coilover mounting here in the middle hits about right here on the master cylinder, and it's on this side of it, so the master cylinder runs into it if the cab tilts. Doesn't work. I'm regretting welding this together. I could have routed it. I know I would have to do more of a bend on it, and I may just cut this off right here and weld this on up here to where this 90 will be up here and it'll go up. I'll cut this piece out and I'll weld this piece in up here, and I'll move this out and I'll rebuild this tube it's looking like. I'm also going to unbolt the whole brake booster and master from the firewall. I am going to move it from right where it's at to over here by the wire harness. I am going to move this to the driver's side of my spring. So however far I have to move this over, I may be able to move it to where the two holes that are over there will go into these two holes on the driver's side, and then I'll need two new holes over here. But my brakes are now going to be over here. So it's a good thing I didn't mount my fuse panel over here, because now the brakes are going to go there. So I'm going to remove my brakes for now, get them out of the way. We'll put our shock in here right where it needs to go. I'm going to put the back upright in, and then we'll design the front one. I marked this out with our template from the other side, and that's how much of the upright that I would have to cut out. You can see that it wouldn't be that bad. It's just like that right there that would have to come out of it. So I don't know that it's worth it. I may design this one and then decide what to do. I mean, yeah, it's gonna cut 3 inches out of the back like that. It leaves the majority of the backbone. And if you think about it, on the other side, we cut out, you know, a 4-inch oblongated hole. So we lost a lot of that backbone, and it's gonna be fine. I really don't think that this one, where it's just the back one, we're not gonna do anything with. That's gonna be full strength. So I think we're fine. And I think we'll just move the brakes over, and then the brake pedal itself, the bar that goes across here, I'll build a tab on here and come over and weld a bar that comes off of this down, and I'll make that bar removable. But I'm thinking that our brakes may end up right there in that hole. Is kind of what I'm thinking. I don't know. I'm probably gonna have to pull the steering, this aluminum bracket for the steering wheel, I'll have to pull it down. I'll probably have to drill it to where my brake master will go into that. Then I'll mount it back to the firewall, and then I'll drill through the firewall with it. I'll probably have to plate the firewall because we're going to be on the outside of that double plate. So I'll have to reinforce the firewall. But for right now I'm just going to pull those brakes completely out of my way, build that hoop, and then I'll figure out the easiest way to move those brakes over. It's the best I can do right now. I mean, it kind of is what it is. I've got multiple things fighting for real estate right there. You know, what's a guy to do? I'll just move the brakes. I'll bring you back when I have that. I'll build my shock hoop, and I'll kind of show you what's going on and if it's going to work. I'll just tack that shock hoop on like the other side to where if it's not going to work, we can come back to it. Fingers crossed, man. Well, when it rains, it pours. One step forward and 4,500 backwards. I have the steering column, the seat, and everything tore back out of it. I have this loose because I know I'm going to have to work on getting that to fit. Not sure how that's going to work. All of my brakes are gone. This boot's in a bind, but I just took this cooler tube for now, and I just switched it end to end and stuck it back up there because that's what I wanted to do, was add this chunk of tube down here, or take it out here and add it up there, I guess. This needs relieved. I think if I just cut this, I can probably pie cut this, and then I can turn this, rotate this down a little bit, and make that, well, I'll get rid of that kink. Here's the drawing as far as how much of the back of that doesn't go on there, and that's where it would sit. It clears it like that, right? But then if you look back here, you can see that black line, the clearance that it's going to give it. I can take, so the top of it I have to leave alone, and this line I have to leave alone, but this portion of it here I can take a little bit out without hurting anything. This is what we would have had to take out before, is this whole section right there, which would have just left us like that little bit, and I don't love that. Doing this with the cooling line will alleviate cutting anything out of that. So that'll make this side stronger than this side. You guys can't listen to that. So I'm listening to some like old rock and roll because it's getting late at night and I'm pushing through because I'm running out of time. But you can see I just have this and that left as far as meat in this one, and the one back here is, I don't know, as bad. I wouldn't say it's any worse, but it's not any better. So this one's missing a bunch of meat, and it's gonna be more than strong enough. So this one over here where I can make it to where we don't cut anything out of the backbone of it, because none of these holes will have to be there. So this whole piece will get put in there, except for there's a plate that goes back here that the bracket for the shock welds into. That's got to stay, but I can cut like that. I can cut this hump out of it, so I can go just straight down like that on that next one. So it won't have this. It'll just go from like here to there, or I can cut it a little bit more shallow, or I can leave it like that. It doesn't really matter. I think that if I move my brakes over here, I might build a bracket. No, I can't. Never mind. I'll edit that out. That was dumb. All right, I gotta go cut that other piece for the upright on the tower there. I'll get that cut out, and then I can get the driver's side box built, I'll get that built and then we'll get the brakes moved over. I might have to adjust a few things as far as brake lines and stuff. Everything that hooks up to it, all of these are on lines to where I don't think there'll be a problem. I might have to route them a little bit different, and then this line comes from the orbital, so it'll just slide over here and hook up. Won't be a big deal. I'll have to make sure all of it plays nice with one another, but once I get those hoops built, these towers built, then I'll take these coils back out of it. I'm going to take these off probably and just final weld them on the bench. But once I get them all welded up and welded on the frame, then I'll take my intercooler, my radiator back out. I'll have to finish weld a couple of things on this front. I don't have any of these rosebud plug welds done, so I'll have to weld all that. I have to build the stops for this, but that'll just take a minute. Then I'll hit it all with a chassis black, and we'll put the new radiator in it. Here's hoping we stick the coilovers in here and they'll hold this thing up. No guarantees. I would almost put money on the fact that I will have to source some heavier springs for these coilovers. I would just about bet they do what the airbags did and they just go, "Ooh, it's too heavy." So anyway, I'm back to the plasma table for a second. I have burned up half of that 4x8 sheet, a 1/4 inch already. So I'm gonna have to move that sheet up a little bit to get another one of the uprights out of it. But it'll still just take me a minute. So I'll be right back plugging away at it. All we have left is, now that we had to start over on that, but I gotta weld up the exhaust, get the drive line built, bleed the brakes. Now I have to remount the brakes. I don't think that'll take that long. I really think it's just a matter of, you know, just asking it to move over a little bit. Not a big deal. Which just sounds like a ton of fun, doesn't it? Yeah, my butt. Hey, you know how there was that section of firewall that I didn't cut out? Well, we're about to. This is where the brake master comes through the firewall. This hole has to be centered with the lip of the hole where the wire loom comes through. So I got to cut the mounting holes and the pass-through hole out. It's got to go over here. This section has to come out because I have to move the wire loom over here somewhere. Probably like right over the steering column. I'm going to leave like this 3-inch chunk here. I'm going to cut this square out because this is where my throttle cable's at, and I don't want to change that because the throttle pedal's not going anywhere. And then I'll have to somehow want to keep the location of my brake pedal, so I somehow have to move all of this over to run the brakes. But I want my brake pedal right there by the throttle like it always has been. So more fun and exciting things going on that I was, you know, because I'm running out of things to do, so let's add some more to it. It's getting late. I'm feeling kind of like it's time for supper. I have no idea. I know it got dark a long time ago, but I'm going to plug away a little bit longer and see what I get done. I did get, let's show you, my other box built for my shock. When I take these off to final weld them, I'm going to cut my joust shocks off, and I'll try to figure out why this one here doesn't return. Maybe I got my cup too tight. Maybe I squeezed it and it deformed it to where it wasn't round and won't let the piston go by it. Not sure. This side works fine, and I think I tightened it just as much. But this side is put together. So I got something done today. Well, it's not done, but I got a darn good start at it anyway. You can see how easy it was to pull my steering column. When I move my brakes out here, it is going to give us a little bit of a fit, I think, with the one line on the brake master. This one here, it just has this little chunk of rubber hose with a compression fitting on it. Doesn't seem like it's like real high pressure or anything. Maybe it's just a bleed back or whatever, but I think that one will be the one that'll try to get tight on me. So we can just make that rubber hose longer. I think it's gonna work. It's gonna look crazy because the brakes are gonna be clear out here. Wasn't planning on that. The fender, you know, mounts right here. So there is this real estate right here. And it'll stick out into this shock a little bit, but it'll be over here to where when we want to kick the cab, we can just kick it. And it'll be on the right side of the shock as far as not hanging on everything. Who knows? You can see I got clearance between that cooling line, and if my hood will close, I don't know if it will because this kicks up too much. I mean, if we go to Sand Hollow 3 days, this thing has to stay together for 3 days of just cooting around out there. So, you know, it is what it is. I can't create any more time, and we're running out. I'm gonna get it running, and we're gonna kick it out the door. Start of a new day here at J-Max Custom. We're gonna do the firewall here kind of quick and dirty. I'm going to put a piece of cardboard up here, probably just stick it onto these studs, push it up against there. I'm gonna trace these holes out, and then we're gonna knock that plate out at 1/8 inch because I need these holes to be there for my brake pedal assembly and steering wheel bracket. So I can't really cut that out of the firewall and move it like I had planned last night. So we're just going to replicate this, and then we'll move it over here, leaving that alone. Then I'll just mark it over here, and we'll drill these holes, the ones that, you know, aren't already open. And then this hole here is the one that I need for my wire. We'll get the pedal moved, we'll get everything all fixed up and make it to where the brakes work, and then we'll worry about bringing the wires through the firewall. Once we get the steering column and the throttle pedal and the bracket and everything back up there, then we'll focus on bringing the wires through, because if we put the wires through right now, chances are they're going to be in the way. And this hole may just move down, but there's stuff in the way. So like I say, let's move everything, get the brakes to work, get steering column and everything back in here. We'll throw the wires through the firewall every step of the way, except for when we're walking backwards. We're getting closer to driving it. I know everybody's waiting for the drive. They're counting down the days like I am and thinking how impossible it is that this actually goes. I thought about it last night as well. We're gonna have the wrecker boom on here. There's a couple other things that are essential to go on here I thought of last night. That'll be down the road. I don't want to give it away because I'm gonna probably surprise Slim with it so he can't know what's going on. I'm onto the firewall. I'm gonna build a plate probably out of 1/8 inch, get everything moved and working, and we'll just see where we end up with it. I used my box from Napa that I got my brake lines in. You can see these studs hold that up there so that I don't have to try to do that myself from the other side over here. I'll just come in here with my Sharpie and I'll just trace the holes around that. Then we'll get that all put into the program, get it cut out of metal. Here we go. Got everything marked out here on my cardboard. Use the mics to get all my measurements as far as the diameter of my holes, because they're not exact with the marker. The way that that's set up, these are going to be a little bit small. I'll use my square and I'll put a 90 on here to pull my grid off as far as my 0, 0 node, and then I will mark everything out accordingly so that I can put that on the plasma knock that out so we can relocate these brakes. According to my cardboard template, if we're up against the edge of this big hole here with what's going to be this hole, it's going to cover this hole up for us. But these studs and mounts for the e-brake and my hood release is going to be in the road. So we're going to remove the emergency brake pedal assembly. It will be going back in there. However, we're going to have to move it for now, and we're going to have to build around it, and then we'll work at putting it back in, hopefully in the same spot. This is a little bit of a setback, not gonna lie. Hopefully it doesn't take a day to catch us back up. So I have my cardboard template, and I need to figure out where my holes are going to end up over here. And this is all on the firewall side. So when I go to put it up here, I can't see where my marks are. And from the other side, I can't hold it up there through the holes and then push I need to push on this hole here, right there between the two holes. That's this stud right here that holds the e-brake. Of course I can't see through the cardboard. If I turn it over, then everything's transposed and it'll be in the wrong spot. So I just bent this over right on the edge of that hole. That way I could tell from this side where that hole is going to be. And I was able to push this onto that stud. So now I have the mark exactly where that stud is at. If I put this plate on the outside of the firewall, there's a head on that stud on the other side that I will have to cut a circle out of for like this stud. You may be able to see that one better. I don't know. There's two of them there. But I'll have to cut a circle big enough to go over that stud on this side. Or if I put it on the inside, I would have to go over the threaded part. I'll probably put it on the outside of the firewall, because if I put it on the inside, it's going to space this stud flange out, and then this one, then it'll be uneven, and then this hole over here won't line up. So I'm probably going to put my plate on the other side of the firewall, be the easiest. And then I'm thinking that I probably need this hole for my hood pop. So I'll put this back up there and I'll mark that hole. Once I get the plate built and get it welded to the firewall, then I can get my pedals back up there. This whole assembly will go up there. And then I can figure out how to get my brakes hooked in to the new location to where my brake pedal runs my master cylinder clear over here. It's warming right up in here. I'm in a t-shirt. I got my brakes moved. Got the plate tacked up here. It's not fully welded, but it's there so that I could see, you know, if everything was going to fit. All of my lines went in except for this one here. It's not quite there. I got all of my brake lines. They're going to work fine. Everything hooked up. Matter of doing it, I guess. So I've got this over here now. You can see these two mounting bolts. They have this friend now. I could have eliminated this stud and just used this one, I think, in this flange here. But I'll have to notch this so that I can put it back up. Right now I'm going to put the pedal assembly back up here and see how I'm going to go from there to here. What I am thinking is that I basically need to build like a second brake pedal assembly right here that has the same movement as this one, and then somehow I will tie the two together.